Me now is retired U.S. Captain Armen Kurdian. Thank you so much for being here today and talking us through this because, we take a look at these images, got to get a handle on what's happening here. So first, let's start with how difficult it is to move these types of planes. What can you tell us?
Good afternoon, Laura. So China has really undertaken some heck of a military buildup in ships and aircraft and moving these aircraft. These heavy bombers are a more of a public signal to the world that China is going to be the premier regional military power. That's their intent within that region of the world. Right now, you could still make the argument that it's the United States, but you got a lot of countries around China that don't necessarily like their behavior, but have to live with them as a next door neighbor. What China did in the Spratly Islands about 15 years ago, and we just let them do it, just go in there and militarize these islands, which were also, disputed by a number of countries, was absolutely inexcusable. But it's unfortunately it's a sunk cost right now, and we have to work very closely with the Philippines, with Japan, with India, Thailand, Vietnam, and those nations to make sure that we continue to maintain a good relationship with them.
When we take a look at those images, if we could go back to the satellite pictures right there. Yeah, when we take a look at that, what does it mean to you when you see that? Are they gearing up their offensive, in your opinion? I mean, it sounds like that's what you think is happening, but what will be next with what they're doing, you think?
Ultimately, China has learned a lot of lessons from Russia and Ukraine in terms of drones and missiles and how a massive bombardment from the air using those types of weapons can really put an enemy on its heels. So what I think they're trying to do right now is kind of twofold. Number one, they want to be able to strike a really heavy blow against U.S. forces, the U.S. 7th Fleet in Guam, Japan, the Philippines, and those areas to prevent the U.S. from being able to respond successfully to, say, an invasion of Taiwan. And you wouldn't necessarily need to have your amphibious forces fully in place before you actually did that. You'd be able to do it. Then you might have a couple of weeks before the U.S. would be able to actually get mass forces in theater. It might be up to the U.S. Air Force to actually stop China from crossing the South China Sea and the Taiwan Straits to come into Taiwan. So it's a dual-headed kind of thrust. You have those initial attacks, and then those heavy bombers can attack more fixed targets, do some mop-up work against the United States. A lot of the war games that the U.S. has done in that region of the world don't always end up so great for us.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, what does this mean for the United States? And what can you tell us about the ships that we have as our country in the South China Sea area?
Well, the United States is investing very heavily in surface-to-air missiles and pushing out that envelope to 100, 150 miles. Also, anti-ballistic missiles, the SM-3. There was recently some issues with this desire to protect Guam under a missile shield, and now that radar program, I guess, is under review and perhaps is going to be revised. But Guam is going to be a major target. Those ships are generally speaking, all on full alert, except for maybe a couple of months out of the year when they're undergoing their standard maintenance availability. But I think what it's going to show is that even when the 7th Fleet is maybe, in its more lower level of readiness in a couple parts of the year, that might be the time when China wants to go in and commit an attack. Make no mistake, the U.S. forces in that region of the world are very formidable, and the U.S. Air Force can reach anywhere all over the world. And we also have submarines that are still the world's best underwater weapon and can knock out a bunch of ships. But China's got a bunch of numbers. They're going to try to overwhelm U.S. defenses if we actually do this. So it's something we're continuously have to prepare for, and we're going to need more of these types of weapons. The Houthis use a bunch in the Red Sea.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.